North Alabama School for Organizers presents Fireside Chats, intersectional education through interviews with the organizations and people making real change right now. Listen, learn, and organize with NASO and Fireside Chats.
What's interesting is that Tommy Battle had seen the body camera footage back then when this first happened. Even, the grand jury indicted, but Tommy Battle still convinced the city council to pay for William Darby's defense and keep him on the payroll as a Huntsville Police Department employee, but to pay for his defense out of city money, out of our tax dollars. So my name is Catherine Hereford, and I am here representing the North Alabama School for Organizers, an organization that I'm very proud to be a part of. And our mission is to empower communities through intersectional education and training to form coalitions that take progressive action toward progressive change. And that's really cool because that's something that I want to talk a lot about, is a lot of the organizations that we have coalitions with and the progressive action that we're all taking. So thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Boy, thanks for being here. Catherine is also one of our vice presidents and co-founder of NASO, and we're really fortunate to have Catherine here. As you can see, this is a very informal type chat, and anyone at any time can ask questions whenever they want. And Catherine has been very, very involved in several, community actions and organizations, and I think one of them that was very important that we wanted to talk about and discuss is the Jeffery Parker murder, and we want to talk about just the arrogance, I think, of the Huntsville Police Department and our city council. And Catherine, could you give us a little background on that?
Sure. Jeffery Parker was my neighbor. He actually lives only a block away from me. Of course, my cat wants to come hang out now. He lived only a block away from me. So he was murdered by William Ben Darby of Huntsville Police Department in 2018. And he had called the police for help because he was feeling suicidal. And I have a long history of working for the Mental Health Center of Madison County. I worked with a lot of people who were frequently suicidal. And I know that if you're calling for help, there's an element of attention seeking there, and you need a little bit of attention. You want someone to help you. If he was hell bent on destruction, he wouldn't have made that call for help. And so Jeffery Parker called for help, and an officer named Janisha Pegues answered the call. She was the first on the scene, and she successfully de-escalated with Jeffery Parker for about a half an hour, and was processing with him why he was feeling suicidal. And she also had backup there. There was another officer, Beckles, I believe his name is, was second on the scene, and he had her back, and they were successfully de-escalating the situation where Jeffery Parker was suicidal. She asked him if he planned on shooting her, something along those lines. I don't want to misquote, but he said no, he was only a threat to himself. She was very comfortable that he was not a threat to her, and she was partially covered in the doorway. So she did not have her weapon pointing at him, which is not something that you really want to do if you're trying to de-escalate a situation. So she was following what I think any reasonable person would consider protocol and doing her job in the correct way. But William Darby, who was not supposed to answer the call, I guess heard on the radio, showed up to the scene and got out of his car, basically screaming, "Point your fucking gun at him," got his shotgun out of the trunk of his car, walked into the house, pointed at Jeff Parker, and within 11 seconds of being in the house, shot Jeff Parker in the face. So luckily, the two other officers, made it pretty clear from the beginning that Darby was in the wrong and that they had the situation under control. There was no reason for him to behave like that. Now, the district attorney, who normally has let a lot of other cases of police brutality slide, along with a grand jury, decided to indict Darby, which is unprecedented as far as I know. And so, if DA Rob Broussard thinks it's bad, it's pretty egregious. And so not only did a grand jury and the DA indict Darby, but the jury found him guilty a few months ago. So when this went to trial, and it wasn't a hard decision because they had seen the body camera footage, and the body camera footage tells you exactly what happened, and it was pretty clear cut. I don't think that I heard about any of the jurors having a tough time deliberating. They didn't deliberate for a long time. So it's a clear cut case. And I want to say that, like, I'm a little bit ashamed because this wasn't on my radar at first, even only happening a block away from me. I heard about it. I knew that it happened, but the police and the media do a great job of making it seem like nothing to see here. This man was in the wrong and we shot him because we had to. He was a threat to us, which was not the case at all. And I wouldn't have known, even in spite of really good reporting at the time by Ashley Reemkes. I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing her name. I hope not, because she's a goddess, but she has done some excellent reporting from the beginning about this case. But I just wasn't privy to it. And it wasn't until, I can't remember when it was, but it was after Dana Fletcher had been murdered in Madison by the Madison police. And I became involved with protesting with the family. And I was paying close attention to that. And one of the issues was body camera footage. And so not too long after Dana had been murdered, my neighbor's house burned down. And so right down the street from me, my neighbor's house burned down. And I was observing, on our neighborhood Facebook page, what was going on. And so her son, the lady whose house burned down, her son had posted a GoFundMe. And so I went to his Facebook page really before I donated to the GoFundMe. And it's something I kind of do, like, make sure these people aren't racist before I donate money to them. It's kind of what I was thinking. So I was scrutinizing his Facebook page, and I came across a post that he made, and he was the son of my neighbor, and he's Michelle, who was Jeff Parker's partner. So he's the son of his mother was Jeff Parker's girlfriend's fiance. And so he told the story from his point of view in this Facebook post, and I never knew the side of it because he had seen the body camera footage, and the body camera footage is the key. So what's interesting is that Tommy Battle had seen the body camera footage back then when this first happened. Even, the grand jury indicted, but Tommy Battle still convinced the city council to pay for William Darby's defense and keep him on the payroll as a Huntsville Police Department employee, but to pay for his defense out of city money, out of our tax dollars. Now, already a big part of our city budget goes to police. And I don't know if you guys are like me in that you haven't seen a return on that investment. And I have definitely had some good experiences with police officers. I've been very lucky. I know that I have a lot of privilege when it comes to the way that I talk and the way that I look. But I haven't had a lot of bad experiences with police officers, but I know that when I was sexually assaulted, the police didn't help me. Huntsville Police Department, not only did they not help me, but they were cruel to me. And I know that when my house was broken into and all my things were stolen, Huntsville Police Department didn't help find the perpetrators, return any of my things, even though there's a retired officer that lived across the street and his niece watched my house getting robbed, but none of them did anything. So I'm a little salty already that so much of our city budget goes to police, but then we are paying on top of a police department that's not really solving crimes, that's locking up a disproportionate amount of Black people for petty things like marijuana. That's already how our tax dollars are getting spent for policing. But on top of that, you're gonna pay for his defense. And Tommy Battle had seen the body camera footage, so he knew how egregious this was. He knew that Darby was definitely in the wrong. Every other thinking, feeling person knew that he was wrong. But for some reason, Tommy Battle decided to support him. And I'm not sure what that is. I mean, I don't know what to call it, but to me, it seems evil. And so not only did he pay for our defense and convince the city council to get on board with that, which is a decision that I hope most of them regret. Out of the 5 city council people at the time, only one person voted against it, and that was Will Culver. He's District 5, he's our district, but he didn't vote against it because he didn't believe in supporting police officers in situations like these. In fact, I think that he wanted a fund. He wanted to designate a fund to pay for this type of thing as like a whole procedure in place. So, and he was a former police officer too. So I don't necessarily think that his heart was in the right place. But I hope that the other city council members who are still city council members regret this decision, because I think it's a abhorrent, disgusting decision. And it's a misappropriation of our funds. And I would love to see my tax dollars going to help people with mental illnesses. That's something that I'm very passionate about. I would love for us all to have health care. I think that is something that we should all be demanding. But using this money we're paying the police to brutalize us, and it's just, and even if it's not happening to us, it's not something that's happened to me personally, but I can see it happening to my brothers and sisters, and it's not right. So that was a long explanation of what happened. I'm not sure if I left anything out that needs to be addressed. Oh, so after Darby was found guilty, our police chief and our mayor doubled and tripled down in support for him. And I can't, it's just disgusting to me, because it's disrespectful to Jeffery Parker's memory, to his family. It's disrespectful to Janisha Pegues and Officer Beckles, who I believe they both left the police department, by the way. So, when they say that there are no good cops, we had 2 that seemed pretty good, but of course they got ran off by being thrown under the bus, by being sent to remedial training. They acted like she was the one who didn't act within protocol, that she was somehow acting against training, but she was covered. William Darby pushed her inside where she wasn't covered anymore in order to shoot Jeff Parker. So, that cannot be protocol, even though Tommy Battle and Chief McMurray swear that what he did was justified. If that's what our protocol calls for, it needs to change immediately. That's ridiculous. Running into somebody's house screaming and shooting them in the face with a shotgun should never be anything that is we can't pretend that's okay. And we have got to change the culture. Like, this is where we're starting from right now. If the people in charge think that this is the way we should be policed, a million things need to change.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory about why, Tommy and the fascist police chief, want to cover this thing up, is because, first of all, they're racist. Secondly, they're fascist. And thirdly, you've seen this over and over. I saw it in Chicago and other cities, that they want to cover up these types of murders because, and especially here in Huntsville, because they're all about getting business into Huntsville. You know, they're all about getting people in, you know, and showing people how great this city is, how peaceful this city is. And something like that, you know, certainly I would think would cause some of these businesses or industry or whatever to question, you know, this motive. And so they want to cover those things up. And it just appears to me that they have no, you know, respect for life. They have certainly no respect for people of color. They have no respect for the poor that we've seen, you know, and the way that they've evicted the poor and treated the poor as just lower than second-class citizens. And so I think this is probably one of the reasons. I don't know all the other reasons, but I would think that would tarnish their reputation in this beautiful Diamond City. And then I have also reported this to the Democracy Today, Freedom Speech TV, in hopes that they would investigate this. And I think if we get enough people to petition them, they might come in and actually do it, you know, because this is something that they need to do. You know?
Yeah, I think that we're in a state of crisis here. If this is our leadership and they feel like this is how we should be policed, and we have a high rate of police murdering citizens, you know, more than Birmingham and Montgomery combined. Huntsville murders more of its citizens than both of those major cities here in Alabama. We have more disparity in the way that we arrest people. If you look at the crime map for, you know, where people are arrested, it's all taking place on the north side. You can see that the citizens of the north side are being targeted and harassed. And it's, and you're definitely onto something like the culture of policing. There's a lack of respect for life. There's this shoot first, ask questions later. And I think not just in policing, I think in our society, we're violently indoctrinated, and everybody is like scared to give or take an ass whooping. Everybody wants to shoot, you know, like it's just, I don't understand it personally. I'm not that afraid of anyone to where I'm going to walk around with a gun that, you know, is more likely to hurt me. Statistically speaking, you know, it doesn't make me safer. It actually makes me in more danger. So I understand the statistics, and I don't fault anybody who does feel safer. There are lots of reasons that you might want to protect yourself. But I do think that we have like a culture problem here for sure. But amplified in policing because they believe that you owe them deference and respect, and any slight that they perceive, you know, puts you in danger. Any miscommunication puts you in danger. There's these split-second moments that they have to make decisions, and it's often, you know, a deadly decision, especially here in Huntsville. Seems to happen, you know. I mean, I could, and I will, you know, name a lot of the cases. I want to talk about a lot of the families that I've gotten to know here who are amazing people who are suffering over, you know, nonsense. Like,
well, really quickly, if I could add some context to the Jeffery Parker stuff before you go on to some of the other cases. I know that I'm probably the only one here that is willing to regularly subject myself to listening to the Dale Jackson show, but I do. And after the mayor and the police chief came out with their statements about that, even Dale Jackson came out. Now, of course, you know, it was in a pretty conciliatory tone, but he was like, "I don't know why you would do this. This is wrong. Like it seems by all counts that this, you know, it's not like there." He was like, this guy committed murder. Like, why would you come out in support of a murderer? And when you have Dale Jackson coming out and attacking you for being like attacking you kind of from the left, but from a more left position, from a more kind of humane and justice centered position, as opposed to invoking law and order back the blue rhetoric. You know, I think that should really trigger some introspection on the behalf on the behalf of McMurray and Battle, because you know, Dale Jackson is not somebody that is generally sympathetic to these types of causes. I mean, in conversations that I've had with him, he thinks that we need to lock more people up in prison. He thinks that we need to have more police funding instead of less. He thinks that, you know, I mean, it's just like he is on the wrong side of every issue when it comes to criminal justice and policing in this country. And for him to be looking at you and saying like, okay, man, you're going a little too far, like it should really trigger some like, oh man, I wonder like where I went wrong.
Yeah, the bar is in hell if you know, Dale Jackson has the moral high grounds.
Yeah, and all you have to do is look back at the George Floyd protest where you saw a police riot. I mean, these guys, I saw the police riot in Chicago in '68. A lot of similarities there. You know, the whole police culture is, you know, if you don't do what I say, well, damn it, I'm going to make you do what I say.
Right.
And they're going to do it at almost any cost. And for those of us that were there, they got tear gassed, you know, got roughed up and stuff like that. You know, it was just a matter of them trying to exert their force and, you know, trying to bully, you know, people into doing what they want. Nobody was bothering anybody, you know. And it's like you're saying with Jeffery Parker, he wasn't bothering anybody. You know, he was not a threat to anybody but himself, you know. But the whole culture is let's just go in and pull out our 6-shooters and start blasting.
Right.
You know? And that's what they do.
And I want to talk for a second about Dana Fletcher, because you know, in Madison, when he was shot in 2019 by MPD, his wife was working out in Planet Fitness. And I've heard different stories. The police won't release the 911 call or the alleged 911 call. We don't even know because we've never heard it. But I think that he maybe took some pictures of people inside of Planet Fitness. And that's the most like illegal-ish thing that I have. I don't even know if that's illegal, honestly, but like that was his infraction that cost him his life. Now, someone called the police on him and they came to his car where he was with his wife and daughter, and they broke the windows, pulled his wife and daughter out of the car, tased him, sicked a dog on him, and shot him. And they alleged that he had a gun. His wife told a different story as soon as it happened, and they showed a still shot that kind of looked like he had a gun, kind of. And again, you know, the police and the media can do a good job of making it seem like nothing happened, nothing to see here. This person was in the wrong and more or less deserved to die. But there is a vast overreaction if you're sending 5 officers for someone taking a picture in a Planet Fitness. You know, they're already messing up, and they can't even admit that mistakes were made. The Madison Police Department wanted to reward those officers who were involved with the ceremony until the public found out about it, and then they retracted that, and they probably still rewarded them some way that we don't know about. But it's a lot like the situation in Huntsville. If you can't even admit that mistakes were made there and that things need to be differently, then how are we ever going to make progress towards a more peaceful society? I mean, this is uncivilized. This is not, it's certainly not what Jesus taught, if you're into that type of thing. Like, it's not the way that we should be treating other human beings, and it's certainly not the way that we should be treating citizens who are paying to be protected and served. You know, and so in Madison, they can't even admit there's a problem. With the Dana Fletcher case, they won't show the body camera footage. And this is why we have to get some body camera laws on the books. In a lot of states, there are no laws. A lot of places have spent a lot of money on these body cameras that really the footage is just the property of the police department. And what's the point of that? You know, they can use it to protect them, but we're not able to see the footage to protect us or to, you know, and all that's on the footage is the truth. Every American, every citizen should be able to get behind the truth. People that are obscuring the truth, withholding the truth, those are the dirty bastards, you know. Like, if there's truth and transparency, and I wish we could all agree that those things are good. You know, there's accountability and justice, and we should want those things as Americans, but we allow our government to prevent us from actually having those things while pretending that we're so free. And it's, you know, how free is it? You know, if Alberto Rivas, who was shot by Huntsville police at his home, he was asleep, his wife was asleep. She rolled over on her phone, accidentally called 911. They got the call. She realized and said, you know, that it was a, you know, false alarm, but they still sent officers out. Alberto Rivas opened the door with his gun in his hands and was shot by HPD. Now, first of all, you know, who told your scary ass to be a cop? If you are, you know, do we have Second Amendment rights or not? Does he have the right to have a gun in his home or not? And can't you expect, if you go to someone's house in the middle of the night and wake them up, that maybe that's the time that they should answer the door with their gun? Like, if you have a gun, when else but then to actually have it with you when strangers come to your door in the middle of the night and you don't know why? So again, you know, the freedom thing, how free are we really? Do we really have the right to bear arms? Do Black people have the right to bear arms? Or is that, you know, mostly reserved for white people?
The refusal to release the body cam footage, it seems to me, is the most revealing thing. I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't want to release the body camera footage in the instance of Dana Fletcher in Madison. I mean, like you said, there was a still image that looked like it does look like a gun to me, but you know, we don't know what the circumstances were leading up to that still being taken. And it seems to me that if the circumstances leading up to that are exculpatory for the police, they would want the public to see that, to make sure that we know that there was no reason that for him to feel like his life was in danger, that he needed to protect himself with arms. And you know, we've seen that across the country where this has been the case, where police feel really confident about the body camera footage. There was a very unfortunate incident where a teenager was shot by the police a while ago, right after the George Floyd verdict, and there was some folks that were really, really upset about that. And they really quickly, I mean, the same day, released the body camera footage and showed that when she was shot, she had a knife in her hands lunging towards the chest of another child. And now, you know, look, we can talk about whether or not they should have used a taser, or whether there were some other ways to subdue her without shooting her. But like, they were very confident that the body camera footage was going to exonerate them in the court of public opinion, and by and large it did. And so, you know, if the Madison police feel as confident as that, why not show us the body camera footage? What is the use of having body cameras if we're not going to we're not going to be able to use them? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And you know, there's a lot of like, oh well, look, he had a gun, that's all I need to see. And you know, frankly, for me, I need to see more. I need to see that the police were not intentionally escalating to the point where he felt like the only way that he could get out of there alive was to have a gun, was to threaten with arms at police who were threatening them. And you know, like, maybe it's possible, I suppose it's within the realm of possibility, that he shouldn't have had his gun out, or that he did have a gun. Maybe he didn't have a gun. But you know, I cannot for the life of me understand why you wouldn't want the body camera footage out there if it exonerates you.
Right. And then, you know, after police have, you know, pulled your wife and daughter out of the car, if you do have a gun, you know, it seems like that might be, you know, a little bit agitating. And why was that even, why did it even come to that to begin with? You know, how can we prevent it even getting close to that situation?
I think we have to challenge the fact that not everybody is an enemy, you know, to them. I think that they look at, you know, if you're if you have an older car, or if you live in a certain, zip code, of course, or, you're a certain color, you're looked at as a potential enemy. And I've talked to cops about this. And one of the things that they've explained is they look at your clothes and see if you have a print like in your pocket. And so therefore it gives them justification to treat you as a hostile person. And that has to change. It all has to change. And I think we just have to keep challenging them all the time. And if there's any way that we can, what we were talking about before, they're all the city council and city government is all about image,
Mhm.
and as long as they can keep talking about how we are bad people, nothing's going to change until we get enough people together and talk about them as being bad people, and the press is not going to do it. They're in bed with the police department. They're so embedded with the police departments, it's pathetic. When they want information, where do they go? To the cops, and I just think that somehow, we have to do what we're doing here, to try to get this information out. But it has to do with image. I think it all has to do with the image of this city, as this being a perfect city. And I think that we have to start, we can't stop attacking, these people that run the city. And I think that once you get, once you get enough people together, I think it can make some kind of a change, or at least that's what I'm hoping.
I think so. And I really think that change is inevitable. It can't continue this way. You can see the vestiges of slavery all over Huntsville. You can still see the same attitudes that would have allowed some people to own other people. They've been carried down, and they still exist. There's still plenty of there's still slavery. I mean, we lock people up here in Alabama. I think we have the 5th highest prison rate in the world, because America has the highest prison rates of anywhere, but we're the 5th, and we're either the 5th or 6th, and then we're either 5th or 6th in poverty too. So I saw a presentation a couple of years ago done by Alabama Appleseed, and they said something that really struck me. It's like, is that because Alabamians are inherently lazy or criminal minded? Do we have all these people in prison deservedly because we're bad people who like being poor and don't like to work and want to do crimes, or is it because of policies that were put in place to actually, keep people down? To criminalize poverty is a huge thing here. You can get locked up for just not being able to pay certain fines, and it's this snowballing effect that can really ruin your life. And it's amazing how we can't make any we've made a little bit of progress, I guess, in our marijuana laws, but that's one of the huge ways that we're perpetuating slavery here. We're locking people up for that, and it's this big business here. And I wish that the people in Alabama that are making money off of the prison industrial complex could get creative and make money off of legal weed instead, and stop locking people up for it. That's my dream. I don't know. I think we'll be the last state that actually does that. But you don't actually have to keep getting richer off of enslaving people. You can, find other ways, please.
Yeah, there are. It was an Alabama Appleseed report. Perhaps it was even the same one that I read that showed that black folks in Huntsville are 11 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white folks in Huntsville. And study after study has shown that white folks and black folks, smoke marijuana at roughly the same rate. Certainly, there's not an 11-fold difference between usage of marijuana between white folks and black folks. folks. I mean, it just does not. It does not make sense. And, I've been told, I have been assured by my betters that, oh, well, we don't actually lock up people in prison for a simple marijuana possession anymore. And it's like, well, let's even stipulate that. I mean, we do. There are people in prison for marijuana in Alabama. Granted, it's not as many as it used to be, and it certainly isn't a very large portion of the population, of the prison population. But let's stipulate that. Let's say that we don't keep anybody in jail for long periods of time because of marijuana. Even just an arrest being on your record, even if you don't spend jail time, even if you just get a probation on your record, that in and of itself is going to create lots of hurdles for you to go through that you have to overcome that other people do not have to simply for possession of marijuana. I mean, the onerousness, the fines, the court fees that you have to pay is ridiculous, and that is something that ensures recidivism rates stay high in the state of Alabama and stay high all across the country. I mean, it just does not make sense to have marijuana be something that you could even be fined for, much less arrested and much less put in jail for.
Yeah, and it serves several purposes for the powers that be, because it prevents a lot of people from voting, and luckily those laws are starting to change in some states, or they're trying to, but it's a very real thing. I mean, since the beginning of the end of slavery, since Reconstruction, trying to prevent certain groups from voting, and it's still happening in all different kinds of ways. And definitely mass incarceration, especially when it's targeted certain groups of people, it's preventing voting, and we do that in so many ways. And there's like that issue is something I think we definitely have to tackle. Gerrymandering and voter suppression is a very, very real problem that's keeping us here in Alabama. It's keeping us so that we're the sixth poorest state, and it's keeping us so that we can't expand Medicaid and take care of our people. And it's causing all these people to not have their best interest acted on. We have this centralization of power in Montgomery, and it's to our detriment. It's not for the good of most Alabamians. It's for the good of a very select few.
Jump in for just a second here. There were some very powerful things that I think y'all just shared. And Catherine, I'm sorry if I steal your thunder on this, but I know you and I and many others here on this call have been involved with Tennessee Valley Progressive Alliance. And it was years ago when we brought up the marijuana disparity in arrest. And we were largely ignored and dismissed. They didn't want to address that issue to the extent that they even addressed it. It was basically to say that, oh, well, that's really out of our jurisdiction. We can't change marijuana law at the local level. But, okay, you're doing the arrest at a local level. So, I mean, I think that's bizarre to go that route. And a few other things that really resonated with me, the poverty is a criminalized status in this state and in this country. And something we've discussed on our show is that this absolutely is a labor issue and a working class issue, because it's working class people, particularly Black and brown working class people, that are targeted by this incarceration and police violence. Jeff Bezos doesn't have to worry about the police harassing him at his house and his neighborhood. And this Jeffery Parker case, Dana Fletcher's case, the protest response, those all to me are constitutional questions. We have a lot of people around here who love to tout the Constitution. Right now, they're screaming about their liberty to not wear a mask. And, by our Constitution, we are supposed to have due process. Where was Dana Fletcher's due process? Where was Jeffery Parker's due process? You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but yet, apparently, our police forces have the authority to execute American citizens arbitrarily without any due process. And that's what they're defending. The very folks who love the Constitution and love law and order, that's what they are defending. And, something you said that I really liked is, conversations like this tonight is a big piece of getting the information to folks, to educate folks, and to build the kind of solidarity that we need to stick together, because, you know, these folks are clearly not just powerful, they feel unaccountable. They feel like they can get away with this. I mean, the balls on these people to say what they said after the conviction of William Darby.
Wow.
It's one thing to do it before the conviction, but to go after a jury has convicted this man and to still defend it and to still say this is what we expected of him. You know, this is our training. We train people to do things that are going to get them convicted. You know, it's the audacity, I think, was pretty shocking. Even for me, who certainly didn't expect much out of those people. It was audacious. And like you said, it's all about bringing people together, bringing everyday people together to sort of educate each other and to look out for one another, because we can't depend on the media, and we certainly can't depend on our elected officials.
Right.
Yeah, and good point. Every extrajudicial killing, if that's the right word, is murder, because they didn't get due process. If there's no due process, you know, then that's murder.
There's a whole new movement starting in this country now, and it's going to be made public here soon, and it's called the Second Rainbow Coalition, in which I'm a part of. There's groups like the New African Black Panther Party, the New Era Young Lords, the American Indian Movement, the White Panthers, and there's a number of other groups coming together to form a second rainbow coalition because of exactly what we're talking about. Each of them are going to be a guest on Fireside Chats next month, and I want people, if you could, to come in and listen to this. But this kind of stuff is happening all over the country. Every one of these organizations are witnessing the police doing the same thing in their community. You know, and I think unless we get together, be it under, you know, a banner, it doesn't have to be something this radical, which it is, you know, the Rainbow Coalition, could be under Tennessee Valley Progressive, you know, it could be under anything. But we need to get together under something, because I am seeing, and what I'm seeing in Huntsville is just too many people that do chalk talk. They'll talk about it. It's like chalk. It rains and it goes away. You know, and they don't really get together on. They're not held together on any issues. So I think what we're doing, even here tonight, with, you know, with the Valley Labor Report and trying to form these kinds of coalitions, that's the only way we're going to protect ourselves. We're vulnerable. I mean, they can come and get us anytime. You know, they know who we are. They're planning. You know, we need to plan. They're always planning. And so that's my hope, that we can do something like that.
Yeah, we need to get as much national attention as possible, because I do think we're in crisis here. Our leadership, you know, has shown just like actual like depravity and evil. You know, what Tommy Battle and McMurray are doing is like, it's indefensible. And what happened after the protest last year, June 1st and June 3rd, you know, I have been a protester here in Huntsville for a while now, and our citizens are very peaceful, very law abiding in all the protests I've ever taken place. And I've never seen anybody vandalize anything, break anything, harm anyone. And it's just remarkable to me that our police force responded with so much unprovoked violence and then got away with it. Nobody is holding them accountable. There's no oversight here. And so we have to get as much national attention as possible, because there are no adults in the room. And I thought that it was very damning when Chief McMurray got on television after June 3rd, and he admitted on television that he tear gassed and shot those people, us, I was there because we had milk and gas masks and like protection, things to protect us from their violence, you know. Like I thought, wow, he just said that on TV. That's so damning. He's gonna, you know, they're gonna oust him for that. Nobody cared. Nobody, you know, like you can't do that. You can't shoot a bunch of people because they have protective gear on. That seems insane, you know, but we bought them all those toys with tax dollars, and they have the ammo and they have the snipers, and of course, you know, I feel like when you have all that stuff, you kind of wish somebody would. And when else are you going to get the opportunity to use that type of crowd control, you know, those violent tactics? If not then, I think they were just, you know, excited to be able to use their toys. And I am really disappointed that there hasn't been any backlash to that, and that McMurray was able to admit that he did that for the most ridiculous reasons, and no one has held him accountable. I think what he did was criminal. I think what Tommy Battle is doing is very negligent and evil. I'll say it again. I mean, I used to have more faith in our leadership, and I used to believe that thing that we like to tell ourselves here in Huntsville, that it's kind of a progressive city and it's not like the rest of Alabama, but we're really on some Jim Crow shit here in a lot of ways. And, you know, our mayor is a prime example, you know, like just really maintaining this good old boy status quo and not allowing us to make any progress, not even admitting that we need to make some progress, not even admitting that there's room for improvement. And I get, you know, a little, downhearted when I think about like how far we have to go, but I try to, you know, put a positive spin on it, and that we just have a lot of room for improvement here. And so because we have so much room for improvement, we've seen a lot of organizations pop up that are doing a lot of good here, and that helps like fortify me a little bit. And I just want to talk real quick about some of those. I'm not sure how much time we have, but I want to mention some of the organizations that are doing good. And I want to start with the Crystal Raglan Memorial Fund. Crystal Raglan was an Iraq combat veteran who was murdered by HPD. And of course, the eyewitness stories don't match what the police said happened. And her family is grieving and trying to fight for justice. But what they want more than anything is to make sure that she is, you know, that she didn't die in vain and that something good comes out of it. So they want to help someone with a scholarship. And her sister Brandy has done a lot of work. And she works with the Boys and Girls Club, and wants to help someone with a scholarship so that you know some good can come out of what happened to Crystal. So that's the organization, the Crystal Raglan Memorial Fund. They're starting a 501c3, and look for them doing a lot of good here, just to try to help mitigate some of the damage that's being done by our city government. And the Dana Fletcher Foundation is doing amazing work. They actually have started working with victims and helping with healing, like actual good for the soul type of events like hiking and yoga and things that these people who have suffered trauma really desperately need. And they've joined a coalition, and now they get together and they help each other deal with all the grief and make a path forward and how they can make things better. And that's an amazing organization that I hope everyone can support. And still protesting for Dana Fletcher, still on Sundays having four corners and passing out flyers. That's always something that you can do if you want to get involved. And speaking of trauma, the Inner Defense Initiative is a local organization, and they are helping trauma victims through what is it called? I had to write it down because I knew biopsychology. So they serve victims of trauma through biopsychology, and they're doing a research project that's 100% anonymous. And I want to plug them because you can just go to their website and request a kit, and they'll send it to you. And it's almost like taking a home COVID test that you like prick your finger and send some blood, and they actually study your metrics to figure out how trauma has affected you. And it doesn't have to just be, I mean, I think that most of us have suffered some trauma, but even if you haven't, they need you to participate too, because they need a control group as well. So I hope that everybody, you know, will take a little bit of time to help them, because I think that that's really good work. And we all, I think, are suffering mentally, and all of us are only one tragedy away from being mentally ill. If we're not already, if we don't suffer from some kind of mental illness, we have a definite sickness in the culture, and something is happening right now with COVID and the political climate. And I think that a lot of people are depressed, a lot of people are anxious, but you know, on top of that, you can suffer some type of tragedy and just be completely lost and broken mentally. So I really want to help shore up mental health services here. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. I worked for a long time at the mental health center, and it was what I felt like was truly my calling. What's sad is that you can't make any money in mental health unless you can have a master's degree or a doctorate, and then maybe. But I would like to get back into mental health. I would like to help try to implement programs where first responders. I responded all the time to crisis calls with my clients, and I did it without weapons. And it's just such a better environment for everybody. It's safer for everybody. If someone can help people who are in a mental health crisis, who's not some aggro dude with a gun with his hand on the trigger, you know, like that's not what we need. We need actual coping skills. We need therapy. We need mental health services for our people, and not armed officers. You know, I've had police come to my house. I had a foster son who was in crisis and was cutting himself, and one of his friends called the police, and 3 cops showed up with their guns, you know, drawn, and not drawn, but right there on them. And it's like, this is very unnecessary for a kid cutting himself, and could have gone horribly wrong. You know, could have been me or my son, or either of my sons. You know, something could have gone terribly wrong. I just would really like to see the response to mental health crises handled differently. So that's something I hope that we can all work towards. But back to the organizations that are doing a lot of good, I think that CCJR is doing amazing work here. The way that they're putting the pressure on City Council is beautiful. And I think that they're one of the organizations who is actually bringing about some real change here. And I'm so happy to see it. I'm so thankful for you guys and everything that you're doing. And Tennessee Valley Progressive Alliance, of course, you know, had a big win getting that monument down, but there's way more that we want to do. There's a new organization called Rocket City Civil Rights, and they're focusing on preserving history, because of course, here in Alabama, you know, the state archives, they just came out and admitted that they have been purposely omitting Black history and propping up Confederate history. So that's what we have a lot of. So there's a real effort that needs to be made to actually preserve the history here, because we have, you know, rich cultural history in Huntsville that needs to be celebrated, and it's been mostly hidden. And so not only do we want to learn, we want to learn about what happened, but we want to learn from their methods. How did they peacefully bring about change here in Huntsville? How did they bring about desegregation? And we're still segregated in a lot of ways. You know, there's a lawsuit called Hereford versus the Board of Education that started in, I think, '63, still ongoing, because we have never desegregated Huntsville schools to the satisfaction of the Board of, or to the Department of Justice. So it's not necessarily something that is unique to Huntsville, because most of America is segregated. You know, redlining had a lot to do with that, and there's still a lot of lasting effects from that. But we are under scrutiny because of this lawsuit, and we still haven't been able to do it. We still haven't been able to desegregate our schools, you know, in 2021. So there is real tangible inequality. There are lots of metrics that you can see, you know, just like marijuana arrests here. There, just traffic violations, petty infractions like that. You can see where those types of tickets are being handed out, and the type of people that they're targeting with that type of policing. You can see the Department of Justice has done studies on children of color being punished more harshly in schools. There's you know, a big disparity in just the resources at the schools between the north side and the south side. So I'm kind of getting off the subject. I just want to mention a few more organizations and then I'll take some questions. Underground Protest is a great protest organization here, and they come with a little bit of spicy civil disobedience, and I love it. I'm here for it. And if you want to support them, the best way to support them is Huntsville Bail Fund, because Huntsville Bail Fund has their back. And Huntsville Bail Fund is doing amazing work. Tahira is really killing it right now. She's got lots of big things in the works. And so you'll see them making a lot of noise, or see us making a lot of noise, because I'm happy to be on the board of Huntsville Bail Fund. Of course, Valley Labor Report. I want to hear more about what you guys are doing, and I'm very excited about collaborating with you guys. So even though we have a long way to go here, I think one of the most important things that we can all do is like report our police, our mayor to the Department of Justice, try to get some oversight, try to get some people with some sense to do something for us here, because our leadership is rotten. And support as many of these organizations as possible. I know not all support can be financial. There are so many volunteer opportunities. I'm so excited about the Automotive Free Clinic, which is it next weekend or the weekend after that?
On the 21st.
21st, which is a really, really great event for this community, and hopefully something that we can continue to do. But if anybody wants to volunteer, we could still use more volunteers. And I think, and even if you can't volunteer this time, there'll be more opportunities, because I think that this is something that will really help. And what did you say? High survival programs?
Yeah, it's a survival, we call it survival programs because, you know, they are survival programs. People need that because without a car, some people just can't survive. They can't get to their jobs, you know, they can't get to their jobs. They lose their apartment. You know, they get out on the street. Sometimes they lose their kids because of it. And it's just a vicious circle. So we started the Automotive Free Clinic, and we will be having our first clinic on the 21st at the, what is it? The New Freedom.
New Futures.
Future homeless shelter, to be fixing people's cars, changing oil, and that kind of thing. We want to do it every month. We got a shop in Hazel Green that really sponsors it. Also, there's an upcoming event on the 29th, and that's going to be a Blues to Bluegrass. Courtney, are you on? Anyway,
sorry, it blocked out. It blacked out. I couldn't
Yeah.
hear you. What was your question?
We were just talking about the Blues to Bluegrass benefit coming up. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. So the trauma study that Catherine was talking about is actually from Little Orange Fish. So they are planning on using that study, and they're working with UAH and a lot of brilliant minds to use that to better bridge for prevention and better treatment of PTSD. So they're actually leading that here in Huntsville, which is fantastic. And I had the privilege of meeting Daniel Adamek a few years ago at their North Alabama Mental Health Coalition. And but yeah, so we are benefiting them August 29th from 1 to 9 p.m. and we have collected a whole group of local musicians that are also very passionate about mental health and well-being and funding for that type of quality life here in Huntsville. They do a couple more things, like they help, tools for teachers to help them with the mental health kits and tools to help the students, which is really important to even start that in public schools, and it can make a fantastic change with that as well. So Daniel's just done an amazing job, and we're here to support him and all the work that he does. And so we're hoping people will show up via, live stream or or at the events safe. And yeah, so we've got QR codes and links where it'll be a lot easier to donate as well. So I'm really excited about it.
It's at the Stove House.
Yes, at the Stove House. I'm sorry. The most important part is at the venue.
Yeah.
And only at Stove House, you know.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Courtney.
Mhm.
And one more time, date and time.
Oh, sorry. Sunday, 29th at 1 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Awesome. Good deal. I'll be there.
Come and hear some music, and it's, you know, it's like 9 different groups, I think. And it's gonna be a fantastic show.
A good lineup.
Yeah.
You guys do a good job with the blues to bluegrass lineups. I like it.
Yeah, it is musicians and others getting involved in the community, you know, to help, you know, noble causes. They don't charge for it, you know, they want to come out and do it, so. But,
Good. It'll
well,
be good.
thank you, Catherine,
Thank you for having me.
and thanks to everybody for being here. I think this has been one of the most productive meetings we've had, or classes, or fireside chats. This is what they're supposed to be about, and you know, and organizing. So we just did it. So,
Yay.
as
Good
we
stuff.
say in the Rainbow Coalition, all power to the people. And
Power to people.
looking forward to it. Now, next week, we will have Evan from Microwave Dave. And I'm sure Tom will be in, you know, joining that too. And maybe we can get Dave to come in, you know, and talk a little bit. But that should be
Awesome.
interesting.
Awesome. And I just want to say that this work can be exhausting and a little disheartening because its progress is slow, but just the fact that we're doing it and we're here together talking about it means we're winning. And
Yes.
I believe that things will get better.
I do too. Thank you. All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Fireside Chats is a production of North Alabama School for Organizers. NASO seeks to empower communities through intersectional education and training. More information, including upcoming classes, at naso.network. Thank you for joining us for Fireside Chats.